Hey Charlie, good to see you. Uh,
It's
all right, my man. So I want to talk to you today about coffee, caffeine. You know a little bit about my history with it, and that I've had a couple struggles with it. Being kind of addicted to it, and then trying to stop, and this and that. And so, you're the first person I thought of just to kind of share some of your insight and view on like what is this coffee thing? Why are we so addicted to it? Why is it hard to stop? And like what's going on here? So you can just riff.
okay. So coffee, to give maybe a little bit of the science of it, huh?
Yeah.
Caffeine, anyway, and coffee is much bigger than caffeine. Caffeine is a stimulant to the central nervous system, and it does that by blocking the receptor sites for something that's called adenosine, which basically is a relaxant to the central nervous system. And so by blocking this relaxant, we become more mentally alert, inquisitive, happy, feeling good. It mimics certain neurotransmitters like dopamine, which dopamine just basically gives us pleasure and can be associated in strong degrees with things like heroin and morphine, lesser degrees things like chocolate. And so coffee fits in there, generating that overall life's good. And it also is a stimulant to the adrenal glands. And so by stimulating the adrenal glands, basically it mobilizes everything and again energizes us for fight or flight. And that has mechanisms. For example, it stimulates heartbeat, raises blood pressure, actually stimulates the liver to release glucose so we have more energy available to us, affects the digestion in terms of causing easier, more complete bowel movements, shuts off digestion in other parts. So overall, you got this kind of wonderful tonic that you're taking in, and it lasts it acts within minutes, and it declines over a period of about 6 hours. I think it's pretty much eliminated from the system in 6 to 7 hours. And most widely used, if you would, drug or stimulant in the world. And it also is touted for having some benefits, which actually is surprising to me. It's actually, shouldn't say that. There are many things that can be beneficial in certain diseases. For example, soy can be beneficial in certain types of breast cancer, breast disorders, hormonal imbalances, but overall, taken on a regular basis, it would be detrimental. Coffee, there's really debate about its uses. It seems that there's a lot of research that says 2 cups a day for people is that it reduces your risk to diabetes, to Parkinson's, to maybe Alzheimer's, and several other things that I don't remember right now. And then it's also got downsides in more things, actually. So that in terms of science, right? In your experience is a pretty good one, as is mine. It's very similar to yours, and I'll speak about it. So for just about everybody, we like the coffee buzz. And people always talk about liking the ceremony of it or the ritual of it, and which I think is largely bullshit. When you get down to it, you can get something else that is very similar in that it could be sweet, could have cream in it, could be whatever that you do at the same time of morning. But if it doesn't bring about the coffee type of results, there's something seriously missing.
I like the ceremony because the payoff is so sweet. The ceremony is the association that here comes the good stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do this, and then my experience with coffee, and virtually everybody's, is the same, and it's the same for virtually all drugs. We'll say is that virtually all drugs have an initial action that they create. In this case, we'll say, aliveness, happiness, kind of a certain calmness, confidence, better digestion, nervous system feels good, all of that. And then the downside is that it takes that away from us long term. That's one part of it. And you notice that particularly if you miss your fix, right?
Yeah.
You miss your fix, and and the blood vessels in your brain all constrict, and you get a headache, and as these poisons start coming out of your body, they generate a headache. You feel more nervous, you feel less confident, you may have less frequent bowel movements, and you you become incredibly tired, in my case, and most everybody, and grouchy and self-critical and irritable, and all the opposite of what coffee does for you. And depending on how dependent you have become, that lasts from a day to 3 days, and is no fun for most people, right?
Wasn't fun for me, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, you could put something similar. Coffee's a pretty good stimulant. It would be more so if you're dealing with heavier duty drugs. It's going to be maybe less so if you're dealing with chocolate or sugar, but alcohol, nicotine, all of these things have that same thing where they take away from you what it is that they've given to you. And then what we all face is, how do we manage this process? How do we go through the process of freeing ourselves from this compulsion, this habit or addiction to continue injuring ourselves, and regain our freedom to where we can choose and we don't feel compelled to have this. And I can talk about that. I think I'll wait to talk about kind of how we go through the process. Let's see. So in this, I should say that you could liken coffee to many other things that I've mentioned. And for me, it's just a subset of habit in general. And in my work with people, that's probably the central theme of my work. Knowing what to do is, at least for me, after years of doing it, it's pretty simple to evaluate a person and see what are the changes that they need to make in order to regain their health. However, the process of doing it is the process of human evolution, is the process of growing more powerful and being able to be the author of our own behaviors rather than being compelled and forced to repeat things that we know to be self-injurious and to have to do that day after day after day. And how to go through that process, in some cases, and you could say getting off coffee is probably one of the simpler ones.
You could say that. I don't know if I could say that.
Well, I don't know that I could say that. I go in and out of coffee probably just like you do. I'm getting a lot better at it, but I have resolved so many things because it's been a lifelong process for me that, this is not a particularly big deal. I dance with it now. But yeah, that's right. For a lot of people, it's really hard, but it doesn't often compare to things such as overall addiction to sweets, overeating, and then you can get into the internal processes of, shall we say, self-criticism or chronic anxiety, and how do we free ourselves from those? That draws into a much longer term, more subtle work than is.
For sure. And in this process, I've started to see the deeper motivations for wanting coffee, and also for the pain of not having it. Yeah, I can definitely see the deeper work that is coming out here.
Yeah. Well, that is the work.
Yeah.
I mean, once it's in place in here, then we can govern this physical thing really well.
Yeah.
And I mean, an example is if I said to you, I'll give you $500 if you don't drink coffee today, you'd go, just write the check, dude.
You got yourself a deal.
Right?
Yeah.
Anytime you want to make that deal, we can do it. So, that's but a simple example of the power that is readily available to all of us. That what is it that stops us from drawing on that?
Yeah.
Get into those questions.
Yeah, and in relation to AMP work, it's the same work we do around, why am I not having good relationship with women? And the women is the symptom of this deeper internal process of how am I not available to people? How am I showing up? So that's brilliant. I guess I just want to loop back on the science for 1 second, because the reason I stopped coffee was because it just wasn't working anymore. You talk about that it initially gives us the thing, but then we need it and it's taking it away. For me, I was not a 2 cup a day guy. I was drinking a pot in the morning and then maybe more in the afternoon, and that stopped working. It's like, why is that? Why did it take this thing away from me?
Yeah, that is the lament of every one of us who enjoys, we could say, stimulation or enjoys drugs, right?
Yeah.
Is that it starts out and a cup of coffee is like, damn, man, this is really fun.
Yeah.
And you go on, and then it's like the cup doesn't quite do it. Cup and a half, 2 cups, and it goes on. And what happens is we grow accustomed to these things, just like our body does the blood pressure medications or antihistamines or anything else. And so you get to where you require more and more of them. And what goes on with these things that give us pleasure is it takes more and more to give us less and less pleasure, until we get to the point, like someone who smokes cigarettes. It's rare that someone who smokes cigarettes really looks forward to a cigarette, or that a compulsive coffee drinker looks forward to coffee like you and I might, when you're doing that first cup in the morning,
Right.
And it gets to where all that you're getting out of it is you're staving off the misery of withdrawals.
Yeah.
You have to do it for a little bit of pleasure, but mainly just to avoid pain. And man, does that suck.
Oh, man.
And that's basically, when I deal with people with illness, that's what's happened in their body. In one way or another, their life of being sedentary, of overeating, of whatever it is that they're doing has over time become downright harmful to them, and systems are beginning to break down because of it, and there's not a whole lot of joy in it anymore.
I think that was my experience with the coffee. Like I was just tired, all of it, with coffee or not, and I was like, something's getting damaged here. My adrenals maybe, or my endocrine system. I don't know the science as much as you do, but it didn't feel good, and I could tell, like, this is not good, and I was really high anxiety all the time, and, just the feeling of contraction, so that's what inspired me to, like, okay, like, I know what's doing it, I got to cut it out, like.
There you go. Yeah, it's similar for me. I noticed 2 things similarly, and I notice this in all my patients, virtually all of them, is I now say, coffee makes you tired.
Mm.
And people think, oh no, coffee gives you energy. But everybody that comes in that drinks coffee that is reliant on it at all is tired.
Yeah.
And more tired in the way that you're talking about. And like for myself, when I drink coffee in a day, I can look for several things happening in that same day. One of them is I get so tired, I can be sitting with patients. I'm going like, God, it's like, how do I keep my eyes open here? And it just comes over me. And if I lay down and take a nap, which I'll do if I get the opportunity, I fall so deeply asleep, it almost aches. Mm. You know, my body just needs that rest because it's you have stimulated and burned off excess, and then it wants it replenished. Yeah. And the other one that I notice through the day is that I become really irritable. At some point, it'll either be toward myself or there'll be some point in the day where I will be so pissed off about something, and I look and I go, Charlie, I mean, come on, man, this is bordering on completely insignificant, and I'm just furious about it. Yeah. It's, yeah.
I love that. I didn't know that you had the dance with the coffee. That's exactly my experience, you know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And this is not really how I want to live, you know. I mean, I know more is possible, so let's go for that.
Great statement. And Casey, this is me doing the dance. I've done the dance with just about everything.
Yeah,
I have. Yeah, I've, you know, in my life, I've been with alcohol, I've been with drugs, I've been with cigarettes, I've been with, you know, sweets. I've been pretty much through it all.
Well, you have to have been through the territory to know how to draw the map. So I guess that's why you're so good at what you do.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I just want to give a plug. I mean, charleycropley.com. You're well known in Boulder. I mean, legendary for your expertise in human metabolism and health and wellness. You know, the external form is weight loss or fitness or things. But, you know, I just want to make sure people know where to find more of you, because if they're not dealing with coffee, they're dealing with sugar, they're dealing with overeating, or, you know, whatever they're doing. You are one of the best I've ever come across in terms of that. So charleycropley.com is how to find you. And is there anything you want to leave us with that hasn't been said, or, you know, support for me, you know, I'm a week into this no coffee thing, you know, what should I have my eye on? You know, like, is it more water? Is it, you know, is there anything I need to kind of rebalance myself?
Uh-huh. Well, so with coffee, people generally know themselves, and meaning, is this something that they want to do cold turkey? Like, I want to be done with it. Or is this something that I don't want to be suffering a lot for a couple days? I'd like to, you know, be able to keep myself at a good level of function and go through this more gradually, in which case it's just a matter of gradually cutting down and reducing it. And there's substitutes that you can use. I will usually move people to decaf if they're moving gradually away from something, especially if people say, I really love the ceremony, I really love the taste of it. Cool, do decaf then. Or start with half decaf or a third decaf, whatever your rate of decline is. And then other things, yeah, I believe caffeine is eliminated through the kidneys and through the bowel by the liver, detoxified and eliminated. And so the increase of liquids is great, and it's simple enough to do more water. If you put a squeeze of lemon in the water, that's going to aid the process. If you move to probably something like a diluted, which is easy to do, a diluted orange juice or a grapefruit juice, that would be good, and you could drink, you know, 6 or 8 glasses of that through the day. Really up on the level, but a big step and more difficult to do is to put in vegetable juices. And then increasing fruit and vegetables. And sometimes, depending on the person, if they're not, well, depending on the person, depends on how much fruit I would give them. But for some people, like for yourself, I might have you at this point go eat 10 peaches a day.
Whoa.
Yeah. Or a good amount of cherries. Like I'm talking upping it significantly. And then if you put in a couple salads, and then what you do is to back that up with some quality proteins and maybe a little bit of grain perhaps, you're cleansing a lot more. And again, in your case, if I was working with you, I'd say get out there on this 4th of July and sweat well, man.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
Charlie, I do appreciate your time. I know it's a holiday, 4th of July. Happy 4th of July. And
Happy Day, man. Freedom Day.
Right. I feel free.
Yes.
And I just want to thank you. I love having you as a resource in my life, and I love sharing this resource with the broader audience here with this blog post. So thank you very much, and I hope to talk to you really soon.
Great. Casey, I'm honored. Thanks so much.